This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There he is, ready to go. He's locked and loaded. He's at Dolphins, fresh off the field. How did Jalen Waddle look? Because the coach says he's ready.
Well, ironically, man, we didn't really get to see much out of him today. He still got that compression sleeve on his leg, but as you heard Mike McDaniel say earlier today, if they would have played Sunday, then he would have been available. So I don't think there's a lot of worries. Everybody out there with your fantasy team, no stress. Like, you don't have to fade him. You don't have to worry about him in week 1. He's going to be ready to play.
Okay.
It's about as hard of a commitment as we could possibly get.
Yes. All right. Well, listen, he hasn't been a BSer to you guys at all. I haven't seen a BSer overall, so I think he's not going to be lying about it. He'll try to avoid it when he doesn't really want to answer it. That's what we've seen. But when he tells you something, he's usually pretty honest about what he says. So I'm gonna take him on his word on it. And he had that ankle wrapped heavily the last time I saw him. So yesterday there was no ankle wrap. Today you tell me there's no ankle wrap, and then there's a compression sleeve. So I'm still wondering, why was that? And it was a surgically repaired ankle that he had, and it was heavily wrapped on the outside of the shoe, which you and I know that's when they do that. That's usually it's something that's a little bit more of a concern for them. So I'm wondering, did he have 2 injuries?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And even with the compression sleeve, man, especially not ever since like Allen Iverson, so going on 20 years, you never really know if something is there for medical purposes or just there for fashion and
or circulation. Actually, those compression sleeves help you in circulation, apparently.
Oh yeah, I see the Brett Favre commercials, so I know what they do. I know what copper fit can do, but you just never know. It could just be the look. But he was out there today. I would expect to see him, 100% next week once it's actually week 1. We're not just in week 0 here. But I think if they had to play Sunday, obviously Jalen Waddle would be taking the field.
Yeah, I don't know if Brett Favre's compression sleeves work as well, because they're kind of stuffed with Mississippi taxpayers' money inside those sleeves. So it might be a little different for him.
You got Jerry Rice on the field too, so you can't forget, man. Jerry Rice is
he's
picture,
legit.
the model
He's
of
legit.
consistency and trustworthiness. So if it works for Jerry, could you just imagine? I just want a casual day at the park, play with my friends, probably worked a 49-hour work week. You just want one day to yourself. Wife's got the kids. You're on the field with your boys. Brett Favre and Jerry Rice come up wearing copper fit, man. Like, come on, dog.
Yeah,
like
you just told me right now that you're not believing Brett Favre because he's a lying piece of crap that steals tax money from Mississippi people. But Jerry Rice is quality. It is a guy you can trust. So if he's wearing the copper fit, you're going in that direction. If it was Brett Favre
by himself
probably would never buy it. Right,
no.
Exactly.
And I don't know nothing about taking taxpayer money, but I do know that.
Oh, you don't know about that?
Rotten person.
Dude, you didn't know about that with Brett Favre?
No.
Oh, my brother, he embezzled like $1 million, over $1 million of Mississippi taxpayer money during the COVID stuff and all that. Yeah.
Well, I don't think he's a good person, so that doesn't surprise me.
You think so? Yeah. What was it? The dick pics? What was it? What was it?
That is the reason why.
What did it? What was it? Was it him telling the team?
I also just can't help but wonder
maybe I won't.
If he was nicer to Aaron Rodgers, what kind of Aaron Rodgers would we see today? Like, where's the ripple effect on how he treated Aaron Rodgers?
So you think the Brett Favre daddy issues were reflected down to his parents? That's why he doesn't take his parents either?
I don't want to comment on that because I know that his father passed away, but I just know that he is not, he's one of those where like, don't meet your heroes type of deal.
Yeah. No, you're right. And Aaron Rodgers is a weirdo no matter what. It has nothing to do with Brett Favre. Favre was just a king-size jerk. I mean, what he would do to the Packers every year, like, well, I don't know if I'm coming back. Brett, we got a draft here. If you're not coming back, we got to pick somebody, bro. What are you doing? I'm not sure. And he did that for a couple of years, and that was just terrible that he would do something like that. on a consistent. And then all he did was hang on to his career after that with the Jets and the Vikings, just so he can stick it back to the Packers. I mean,
he had a good year with the Vikings that one year. I mean, tried to throw across his body against the Saints, and I think that's what knocked him out the playoffs, right? But either way, I mean, he came back, and he still had some life left in him. He still had some football left in him. Unfortunately, probably should have stopped after that first year with the Vikings, because I think the second was a total disaster. Got to know when to say when, got to know when to say die.
Yeah, no, but that guy, he's a king-size jerk. So what are you going to do? All right, so I talked about this the last year or something, and when people picked on Tua for a non-captain, I said, hey, man, you got a head coach that's created an environment that he doesn't want to be a part of because he knows that the coach doesn't want him to be a part of. And so to me, it was a no, it wasn't any kind of deal that he wasn't captain. I know what was going on behind the scenes. Now that everything is even, now that you actually have a coach that is allowing him to be himself, he gets to win people over, and he ends up getting all the votes. So to me, how do you read into all this stuff? Non-captain to captain now.
Look, it's something that, I mean, it's kind of expected for, whether it's his personality or not. Like, there's a certain expectation when you're the starting quarterback, and there's a certain expectation when you're the number 5 overall pick, and you know that this franchise is kind of riding on your career success. You're kind of expected to be able to represent the team, or at least your teammates. You're expected to have your teammates trust you to represent them and lead them. So it's not a surprise to me from the things that I've heard around the building. It's almost like you're seeing a new Tua in terms of work ethic and involvement with his teammates, with his coaches in the film room, so on and so forth. And it's just something that, it's not that he had poor work ethic in the past as much as it is his current situation makes it fun to come to work. Right. You get it? Like, for example, man, like, it's anecdotal here, but, when I worked at a newspaper, small town in Lake Havasu, I knew, okay, man, like, I've got to come in and I've got to shoot the game. I got to write the game. I got to do the interviews. I got to edit the photos. I got to do all of this, like, and it's going to be thankless. Like, I know that nobody is going to appreciate it. Like, there's no oversight. I'm dragging my feet coming into work. And the next stop I made, similar situation. I'm still doing all these things, but every single day I had my editor tell me, hey, man, like, appreciate the work that you're doing. And wow, dude, you're getting a lot better, man. Like, you're helping us out a lot. And so I was like, all right, man, like, I want to be part of this team. Like, I want to keep coming in. I want to keep going the extra mile. I want to keep doing this. It's similar to what Tua's got right now. Like, he's in a supportive situation. He's in a conducive environment for him. It's making it so he wants to do things like stepping onto the field at 2:30 p.m. before a 7 o'clock kick to run through and visualize the playbook and kind of go through that by himself. So it's not so much.
The week of the Ravens game, Flo basically told him, you're not playing. So remember that whole story about him going to play golf? Well, that's because
that is basically what I've been told as well, is that he was under the impression that he wasn't going to be playing. He was told that he wasn't going to be playing. Yeah. And the whole golf thing was kind of a like, look, man, I'm healthy enough to golf, but I'm not healthy enough to play. I think we all kind of focused on the wrong thing there. You know what I mean? Like, he got bashed a lot for golfing when the focal point should have been he can golf, but he can't throw the football.
I don't care. I did not focus on that. None
of that ever bothered me. The golf never bothered me, because I couldn't get over the fact that your starting quarterback is healthy enough to be the emergency guy, but not healthy enough to start. That should never happen in the NFL. Everybody I've spoken with around the league is baffled by that. It's like an oxymoron.
The coach,
your starter should not be an emergency. Like,
he thought the coach, and then it's the coach thinking he can win with Brissett over Tua. That's the problem there. You dislike the kid so much that you thought you could do better with the other guy that doesn't have half the talent of Tua. It's
not wrong.
And it's the same thing with the work ethic stuff. And you corrected it right there, where you said when people talk about, he didn't have the work ethic, it's not that. It's just he wasn't given the
He
opportunity.
didn't
He
want to be
wasn't
there. Like,
given,
I
yeah,
mean, everybody in this chat, I'm
hard.
sure you have had a job where you're like, oh, I don't want to come into work today. God, I don't want to deal with this today. And then you've had a job where it's similar tasks, but it's a much better environment. Your coworkers are fun and more talented. Your management is more talented and more supportive. Like, all of a
Do
sudden, it's
you
like,
think
oh
there's
wow,
any
yeah, I
chance?
could do this.
Do you
Like, I
think
mean,
there's
it does
any
make sense.
chance?
He played for Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the most
Exactly.
crotchety, grumpy, mean coach in college football. But the man wins, and the man cares about his players enough that it's a conducive environment. Like, he's still a teacher at the end of the day. Like, you don't last that long in college football without enjoying the process of teaching your players and coaching them up
That's
and
why
building them up.
I would rip people that say he didn't have work ethic, because if you're Mac Jones or you're Jalen Hurts or you're Tua Tagovailoa and you played for Nick Saban, you're already telling me that you got work ethic, because Nick Saban's not going to allow you on that team if you're not willing to work. If you're not going to work, you're not going to be. He's going to kick your ass out of that program, pretty much overall. So to me, that's why it's just false narratives that people kept creating about the kid. And so I'm glad now when we see the captains and him getting the most votes and all that stuff, it's good to see that he has the environment that will now allow him to actually grow. Did you pick up on anything else when you look at last year's captains? Landon Roberts, Jesse Davis,
Youth.
Fedulum, Hollins, McCourty, and now it's Tua, Holland,
That
Tyreek,
is
Howard, Roberts, Armstead, and Wilkins.
so two things. One, it's youth leadership. Tua is in his third season. Javon Holland is in his second season and is barely old enough to legally drink alcohol. You get a sense like, okay, their youngest players are now becoming their best players, and then beyond that, their best players are their leaders now. Like, when you look at these guys, you'd be hard pressed to say that outside of Jalen Waddle, and maybe there's somebody I'm missing, but outside of Jalen Waddle, like, these captains are the best players on the team.
Yeah,
And
I
they're
think
leading by example,
I
especially
think
Tyreek Hill.
I think
Especially
Gesicki's
Tyreek Hill.
captain. I think Gesicki's captain material, but obviously you can't put him captain material here on this team right now. But I think
I think,
he's a pro. He's a pro, dude. I love how he carries
and
himself.
I've
Man,
been saying all summer that Javon Holland was going to wear a C on his chest. That's not a hot take. Tyreek Hill wearing a C on his chest as well. It's not necessarily surprising. I think people who aren't paying attention to the team and are reporting this summer might be surprised, just because of the flashy, the loud mentality that you get with him, like the visibility he has. The the reasons why he wanted to get out of Kansas City. Some people might call him money check, this and that, but like, the fact of the matter is, in that locker room, he is a pinnacle of accountability. And Mike McDaniel spoke to that he has helped set the standard that Mike McDaniel has tried to instill into this team. You can't tell the story of Mike McDaniel's Dolphins without Tyreek Hill. And it's not just on the field. It's not just his talent. He is a guy that Mike can call out in a meeting and say, this is not up to par. And he's the first guy the next day that he can show who corrects the problem.
Mhm.
So like, it's that part. That's something I didn't personally know about Tyreek Hill before he got here. Obviously, open-minded when he was traded here. Wasn't sure necessarily what to expect, but I didn't necessarily know he was that much of a team player. He was a team player to that extent. You can't be all me on a
Oh,
Super Bowl team. So like, I figured any criticisms of him, of his, of any selfishness, of any bad attitude, I figured those were overblown. Those were just Chiefs fans that are hurt, just like Vikings fans that were hurt about Stephon Diggs. But I did not know he would be a leader to this capacity. And so that, good on him. Christian, best defensive lineman on the team. He's a captain on that part of the field and that level. X, again,
that's a
doesn't
little
seem like a rah-rah
surprise
kind of guy, but
that's because he's a quiet leader. He's just an example
it's
leader.
a lead by example
Although,
guy.
although I'm wondering if behind the scenes we don't know that maybe X has become a little bit more vocal, but not like vocal, but like maybe the guy that
Well, look,
is
man,
advice quietly behind the scenes. You know what I'm
that
saying?
is the
Maybe,
beauty of us being
maybe
back in the locker room is that we get to see interactions again. We get to see
yeah,
who's hanging out with who's all over the place, who does this, and that. And that's exciting because
yeah, because
when I was up
you
in
didn't see Tua socializing at all yesterday when you walk in because he doesn't socialize with his team. No, not at
yeah,
all.
I mean, he and Tyreek came right in, and I don't know what the locker room rules are. Well, I kind of do, but like I think this is safe. They come in the locker room, they hop right on that ping pong table that's smack in the middle.
Yep.
You got Rob Hunt behind saying, "Hey, if Tyreek wins, I want next. If Tua wins, yeah, I don't know, I don't want to lose." So like it's fun to see people interact. It's such a weird environment because like it's essential for our job, but I don't like feeling invasive. So
Right.
like there's an extent to where okay, it's time to get out of here. But it is cool to be in there and be able to just have regular conversations again.
I talked a little bit about this on a historical sense, and it's funny how things have changed. The NFL back in the 50s, early than that, or early 60s, they
Hmm.
didn't have they didn't have one or three black players. They might have two or four black players on a roster because they didn't want them rooming with white players because everybody was separated. So they never had one black player, they had to have two. They never had three, they had to have four. And it really didn't go more than that on an NFL team. Then came the AFL in the 60s, and they didn't care where you came from. And so a lot of black players went to the AFL, and then that forced the NFL to get off the 2 to 4, and they started adding more players because they figured the AFL is getting all the talent now with all of that. So it's interesting how that then developed, and that started with Hank Stram from the Kansas City Chiefs, who did not want the cliques to be hanging out with each other. He wanted to put the groups of positions together, and if there happen to be black and white players in that group, well, now they'll be forced to hang out with each other and get to know each other. Well, that kind of became the thing for the NFL throughout generations, that you
Hmm.
kept your positions together so they could bond. Okay, so now fast forward 50 years later, we're not talking about segregation. We're not talking about those kind of things, even though we still have our levels of racism and bias in this world. But in the locker room, that bias does not exist nearly as much. But in Mike's world, he thought a little more out of the box, and he said, yeah, it's nice to have all the DBs and all the linemen together, but they're always together, practicing
Yeah.
on the field, in the meeting rooms. Let me break it all up. So the long snapper's next to the defensive tackle, who's next to a wide receiver, who's next to a kicker, who's next to whatever, and so on and so forth. What did you think of that? And that thinking, because again, this is a guy that thinks outside the box and didn't even mention in his meeting. He kind of saved it for afterwards to bring it up to Joe and then break it up in the locker room. So, what did you think of that? And do you think that's a proper tool to use to create what's it called, chemistry?
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm glad that Joe asked about it. Shad asked about it because we were all in there yesterday, like trying to get a feel. It's the first time any of us have been in there in like a work capacity since this place opened. But like, man, like there's no real like rhyme or reason to this locker room right now. Everybody's just kind of everywhere. So it makes sense that it was like, and I asked Javon and I asked Shannon about it, like, how did you guys figure, like, how does this arrange? They said, yeah, coach just told us where to go. It makes sense. It makes sense. And yeah, like you're in position groups with these guys all day. You do drills with them all day. Like, why do you
Meetings?
also need to be next to each other in the locker room? That promotes clickiness among the team. This forces you to get outside your zone. And it's almost like you remember the Titans when they made when Denzel made a player of each race.
Oh, yes.
Black player,
Yes.
you got to go find a white player find black. Offense find defense sit with offense.
Right.
Like
Right.
not to say like it's they needed the camaraderie to that extent, but I think that it makes a whole lot of sense. And it's funny that it was one of the first things that he thought of when he took his tour. That okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to shake this locker room up.
Yeah, because most locker rooms are the way they are, that they're all in position groups, which, by the way, makes it a lot easier for you to find people because you'll know where the DB group is and the linebacker and all that in the locker room for now. In this way, boy, you better remember specifically where that name in that locker room is now. And that it becomes a little harder now. Now it's all muscle memory. Now you have to develop throughout the year to know where X's locker is, not where the DBs are. Okay,
Exactly.
I'll find Cater there, and I'll find X there, and I'll find all the guys there. No, man,
And
Cater might be here, and X might be over there.
to be honest, and I'm never, I don't think I've been in the post game locker room. I've never been in there when it's 53 for the Dolphins, at least. But I could tell you that post game for the Bills, I believe everybody more or less, like, it's by position group, and I think post game is a little different, or your game day locker is a little different. Just makes it a lot easier, when you're meeting. But I can tell you their practice facility room was sort of the same. Like, you had some linemen and receivers and whatnot that sat near each other or next to each other. Like, I know Jordan
Well,
Poyer
that
and
might be
Micah
also the
Hyde were
fringe players.
near
That
each
might
other
be
and
the
all
fringe.
that. But like, it was a healthy mix. Now the Panthers locker room, Carolina, which is by far the worst home base locker room I've ever been in. I think the Steelers is pretty bad too, but that's just based on videos I've seen. It looks outdated. But the Panthers, by position group, straight line, you see the whole thing. You see the whole locker room in one swoop. Unimaginative. This is, they got a barbershop in there, man. Like the
Yeah,
Dolphins do.
badass.
It doesn't, it's gonna sound weird, but it is what it is. Like, I think they have like ventilation shafts at the bottom of their locker that's constantly circulating air, because it didn't stink
Right. Yes.
in there.
Yeah, you're right.
It
You're
actually
right.
smelled
Yeah.
specifically clean, like weirdly clean. It's like, where
Yes.
are we, man? Did they just open this up
Yes.
yesterday? It was
That is
incredible.
so true, bro, because I was so used to locker rooms smelling like just old sweat, and it just stinky, dude. Oh God, and the Orange Bowl. Oh my God, after a game, the Orange Bowl, those locker rooms are like this, dude. They were terrible, man. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. That now you reminded me. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it smelled fresh in that locker room yesterday. Hell, we were just talking. I was just talking with Sean earlier on the show. Didn't you want to order a popcorn and something to drink right when you came in with that that
It's
that
like a
whole
movie
counter
theater
that's
literally.
right there? It looked like you were in a movie theater, bro. I mean,
It was an impressive. It's an impressive locker room, and NFL facilities are now catching up with college, and college, I think, is the standard setters, but they need that for recruiting.
right, right, yeah, definitely. But that man, that facility is absolutely awesome. All right, what do you got going on ESPN so the listeners, the viewers, can check it out?
Yeah, this, I know a lot of people definitely listen to the show, because not only have I been recognized and spoken to, like, just in the world, not as ESPN reporter, but as hey, saw you on the Big O show. But I've got a lot of people asking where the Tua story is. We're backed up a little bit at ESPN is the best way I can describe it. A lot of stories coming through, a lot of people that want to put eyes on it. Hoping to get it out on Friday, but was hoping to get it out on
Supply
Tuesday
chain
too. This
going
could
on
also,
at ESPN, huh? They don't have
it
enough
could.
computers. They don't have enough internet. Supply
I
chain
think
is
it's one of those. It's one of those issues or one of those, not issues. One of those things where we really just want to make sure all bases are covered, and that this is each story is as good as could possibly be. We're going for quality, not quantity, and we're not trying to rush out content for the sake of rushing out content. But it's done on my end. It's written. It's filed. It's being edited as we speak. Matter of fact, I'm getting Slack messages from my editor down here, what we can add to it and what we can take, and checking this and that. So hopefully, yeah, it is
So
out.
it's
It'll
not a
come out on
delay on
Friday.
chips from Taiwan, right? It's not a delay on chips from
No,
Taiwan. No.
the Evergreen or whatever it's called
All right.
is not holding us up. Matter of fact, and there's our news desk right now wants a story on Tua's wants a story on Tua's captaincy. So look for that within the next 30 to 40 minutes. That's what I'm literally about to go work on.
There you
And
go.
then we got locker room in 20 minutes, so I might have to bounce here.
All right. Well, you are bouncing right now because we're going to kick your ass out right now so you can go work. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Marcel_LJ. Catch his work here twice a week and doing his thing for ESPN. Much love, my man. Go have fun in a nice, clean locker room.
Appreciate it, man. Y'all be easy.
You got it. There you go. You now have the edge.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.